A big thanks to my Patreon supporters, Vanidia Fortes, Handsome Bana, G83, and Bella for their continued support. Over-sexualization in anime is nothing new, and its existence shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who even passively thinks about anime. The ethics of sexualization in anime are talked about a lot, as are the damages caused by it. Whether it's setting unrealistically high body standards for young girls, fetishizing young girls, or giving a very wrong impression of what girls like to still developing, impressionable young men. To give the benefit of the doubt to my own gender, I'm of course not saying that anime will have adversely negative effects on all males. I know lots of my friends who love anime don't expect all women to look like this. Most young men will simply see this stuff, might enjoy it, might not, or might not even give it a second thought and move on. However, there is of course a certain bunch who start to think of this as being the norm, and that is a really bad thing, and can lead to a lot of uncomfortable or dangerous situations for girls, especially those within the anime community itself. While that is of course terrible, I'm not here to discuss the ethics of why a lot of anime are the way they are. Putting the ethics aside, I'm here to ask why it's like this to begin with. Most people don't ask the question of why it's so common. And even if they do ask, the answer that's often given isn't really true, or at least not the whole truth. And that's because there isn't really one easy answer. Finding the answer to this question requires more of a fine-tooth comb, and is going to have us looking at the daily routine of a lot of Japanese people. Hey, if you find that you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. It's free, it helps me out a ton, and you can always unsubscribe later. Alright, enjoy the video. So, it's pretty well known that working days and working weeks in Japan are much longer than the norm in other Western countries. Contrary to popular belief, in the case of a lot of companies in Japan, this isn't mandated. Legal Japanese full-time hours should consist of no more than 40 hours per week or 8 hours in a day. Don't get me wrong, some companies throw this law to the wayside and often nothing is done about it, meaning lots of Japanese people are unfairly overworked. But in a lot of cases, if a Japanese person is working very long days, it's often their own choice to do so. The sad reality is that in a lot of places, the longer you're seen working, the better you'll be perceived by those around you, your boss especially. Those who actively choose to work those grueling 15-hour days often aren't forced to, but may feel a sense of pressure to do so nonetheless. It should also be noted that in most of these cases, they are at least paid overtime. Now, you may be asking what this has to do with sexualization in anime.
We get there when we get there!
The thing is, if you've just gotten home very late after working with almost no breaks for 15 hours, what energy are you going to have for any kind of sexual activities with your partner or even just by yourself? Obviously, very little to none. The hyper-work-focused nature of Japan has had a direct impact on the sexual activeness of the entire country. This has led to the birth rates being some of the lowest in the world as well, at only 1.41 children per woman, well below the 2.07 needed to sustain growth. It's so bad, in fact, that Japan has the world's oldest population, and is projected to still be far and beyond the oldest by 2050. The sexual repression is widespread across the entire country, especially in overworked adults, and there are few in Japan as overworked as mangaka. The deadlines most mangaka work under must make any kind of sexual activity almost impossible, so I can say with a high level of confidence that it's pretty likely a lot of mangaka are releasing that sexual tension and energy in their stories. And this obviously has a trickle-down effect, seeing as most anime are adapted right off the pages of a manga. If the manga has a lot of fan service, so will the anime. When sexual urges are repressed for a long time, they just heighten more and more. So it's no surprise that so many women in manga, and then the anime, are drawn so inherently and stereotypically sexy. Sexual repression is obviously not the entire cause of this. A part of this is also mangaka knowing their audience. The most common anime and manga to have fan service are those geared specifically for young men. Most young men around the world tend to like attractive women.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
But the media geared towards young men in other Western countries is not typically as sexually charged as it is towards the youth in Japan. This is in part because of all the things I just went over, and how the creators are expressing their own repressed urges. But it's not just Japanese adults who have this problem. Sexual repression is just as common in Japanese youth. The thing about Japan is that its cultural norms lie very deep within its roots. Japan has changed massively in the last 100 years, but a lot of the long-held sense of pride, dignity, and dare I say, honor is still very much present. Now, before people get upset saying that I shouldn't talk about Japanese cultural norms like I know them very well, considering that I'm not at all Japanese and I've never even been to Japan, let me just say that my best friend is half Japanese, alright? I'm basically an expert. Anyway, like I was saying, the same sexual repression present in Japanese adult society is just as present in Japanese youth. To a lot of Japanese families, success in school is incredibly important, and the amount of pressure that is put on Japanese students is mind-boggling. There is a reason the suicide rate among Japanese youth is as frighteningly high as it is. School days are just as taxing as work days. The same style of work still applies to both youth and adult Japanese. What's worse for the male youth of Japan is that these are their formative years, so having their idea of women and sexuality, etc. being so warped by just everyday manga and anime is really bad. Other factors are at play here too, of course, such as Japan's fairly lacking sexual education and their enormous porn industries, both of which are talked about in great detail by the YouTuber Let's Ask Shogo. He talks about it all in great detail in his video about Shikan. In his video, Shogo also mentions the sexless society argument I have just made. I personally believe that it is the largest contributor in terms of the manga and anime industry. The culture clash that is felt through anime or other Japanese media such as games is sometimes felt very hard and has led to a lot of censorship over the years. But as time has gone on, these have gotten less severe in both countries and has made the picture a lot clearer and a lot worse in some people's eyes. Personally, I think sexualization is okay to an extent in anime. The people it does affect do seem to be a small minority of people, though that should not be overlooked or ignored either. Absolutely nobody should have to feel uncomfortable in their own skin because of someone else's preconceived notions. I'm not sure what the solution to this issue is, as it seems very deeply rooted, but I hope in time the people it does affect will stop and take notice of their behavior. Until then, all I can say is that if someone comes to you because of something that happened, because they feel uncomfortable with someone else, or anything, just give them support, be there for them, and be understanding. It sucks that so many women don't feel comfortable being in the anime community because of a select few number of jerks. I hope in time this won't be an issue anymore, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Peace!